I think too, like, it's probably like the same thing that happened in the music industry. Like you said, it's probably, you see all these eccentric weirdos doing things that no one respects, but clearly someone likes it because it made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And then the next one's got to make more money, right? So instead of letting those geniuses do what the geniuses do, they get too concerned. And like I said, the bureaucracy comes in, the board meetings happen, they start weighing out like, well, we're finding that the kids nowadays don't like when you use this word, so we can't use that word. And it's like, you got no idea what people are going to respond to, and again, we've gotten to like a hyper politically correct thing again. It seems to come back around and around, and it gets worse and worse every time it happens, where it's, there's like these invisible rules you can't break, but then you apply the same logic to another area and it's like, oh, it's reverse logic, like not to bring vaccines back into it, right? But with vaccines, it's like, screw you, you're getting a vaccine because I don't want to sit next to you unless you have a vaccine. And it's like, yeah, but you got the vaccine, so what are you worried about? Like, what am I going to do to you if you had the vaccine?
Yeah.
But then you start talking. So it's not my body, my choice. It's society says you take the vaccine or you can die, right? But then you start talking about abortions. Oh no, abortion's my body, my choice. What, really, is it? Like, is it really though? Is that really your body? Because I'm pretty sure I'm my own body, and at one time I could have been an abortion. You know what I mean? Like, there's no distinction between me as a fetus and me as a 40-year-old man. That's still the same organism, right? Now, I'm not saying women should be allowed to have access to abortions, but don't give me this whole like, tell me I'm a misogynist if I question abortion rights, or I'm a misogynist for questioning the limitations on abortion. Because like in Canada right now, you can get an abortion at 8 months pregnant, like, and the government will pay for it.
Really?
Yeah, Now I think there's going to be some checks and balances. Like, you can't just walk in at 8 months pregnant and say, get it out of me. Like, they're going to say why. They're like, well, because I don't want to have it. So like, to me, like someone who's ultra religious, they're going to say there's no difference between a 6-week fetus and a 20-week fetus, right? But for you and I think we probably have a little more understanding, and we think that yes, there's a huge damn difference between a 6-week fetus and a 20-week fetus.
Mm-hmm.
But but that's what that argument created, right? That slippery slope they talked about, in the Roe versus Wade discussions, and when abortion was coming legalized, this is what they were afraid would happen, is that we would legalize murder, right? And it did happen. So that's why, like in a lot of states now, it's against law to get abortion unless there's a medical reason or some extreme reason, because it went too far. And then it becomes so polarizing. Anyway, I find it strange that but that's where the arguments are. Like right now, you're not allowed to say abortion's bad, but you can say that an anti-vaxxer is a horrible human being. Right, which they're not even, like, it's the complete opposite. Like, someone who doesn't want to get a vaccine should be like, okay, it's your choice. It's your life. You might get sick and die. Maybe you won't, but it's your choice. Whereas the other thing really isn't your choice. You're choosing something for somebody else. But I get that. I don't think a woman should be forced to give birth, like, especially considering what birth does to women, right? Like the chemical changes that go on inside of them, physical changes that happen to them, right? Like, and then to tell a woman, like, look, sorry, your option is either raise it or give it away. Like, those are terrible things to do to somebody that doesn't want to do either, right? Like, because if someone doesn't want to have a kid, is forced to give birth to it and give it away. Like, imagine what that would do to somebody. They'd be sleepless nights for the rest of their life. Doubts, questions.
The thing is, we don't have to imagine what that's like. We know what that's like because there's plenty of women have been through that.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So
I think all of this stuff, all of this wokeness, and all of the, whether it affects games or movies or society in general, is to do with an agenda of othering people. Othering is now a verb. You can other somebody. They're other than you. It's like a horribly dangerous sort of road to go down, and it's only because the psychopathy of the corporations requires it. The more we're at one another's throats, the more we are divided, the more money the corporations can make from our fear.
Yeah.
So we'll pay more for our electricity because we think that global warming is going to kill us. We'll pay more for our medicine because we believe it's good for us, when in actual fact it's the opposite. It's all about that. It's all about creating fear. Fear makes money.
Yeah.
And love and understanding and acceptance there's no money in that. Even though there probably is, if you're not psychopathic.
Yeah.
If you could get people together, people would pay to get together and be better together than they are apart. But the psychopathic corporations can't think. They can't think like that. They cannot think like that.
Yeah.
It's impossible. You don't get to the top of a corporation or to the top of the political tree by being an empath. that system filters out the empaths and only lets the psychopaths through. So, anybody who arrives at that top part has to be broken in some way.
Yeah.
They have to be.
Yeah.
You can't get there otherwise. I mean, even Donald Trump, for whom I have a lot of respect and admiration, increasingly so as time goes by, the more people attack him, the more I think actually he was okay. He's a narcissistic.
Oh yeah.
He's not a sociopath, but he is extremely narcissistic and delusional. There's no doubt about that. He is broken, but at least he's not a warmongering psychopath that wants to destroy the world's population. So I mean, by that example, you can see what other things are possible. But I mean, your leader in your country, my leader here, they're all fucking raging fucking nut jobs. They should be nowhere near the corridors of power.
Yeah.
And as soon as we realise, I don't know the mechanism by which we get rid of them. I don't know the mechanism by which we fix this. I mean, maybe I'm too old to imagine it, but it just looks like we need revolution. We need. I mean, sorry to say it, but we need to burn buildings and block roads and, just say no more. Not having it.
What's it, right?
We're sending our immigrants to fucking Rwanda. People who come here from all over the world are being deported to fucking Rwanda.
Yeah. Well, it's sad too, right? Because Canada aggressively immigrates, right? Like we bring in over 1 million immigrants a year right now. Like we've been doing that for like 10 years, and our population's like 30 million people.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, we're just completely, we've disincentivized having children. We made it impossible for people to want to have families. So then we
need the
bring in strangers.
You need the immigrants.
And so we have a housing crisis right now. Like the average home in Canada is over $1 million now. Like who can afford $1 million home? So there's all these immigrants are told, come to Canada. You get to have free health care, a wonderful life, and they come here and there's homeless people everywhere.
Yeah.
There's lineups at the hospital, and everything's just falling apart. And they're going like, why did we come here? This isn't better than where I left. Like this isn't, and Canada is like China now. Like we control the news coming in, the news going out, right? So like what the world sees here is not what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
What I see, like I can't even get accurate news about the town I live in. Like it's like and it's crazy. Like I just read a news article this morning. There's this little town in Quebec, right? Quebec's the French-speaking province, right? Or one of the two French-speaking provinces in Canada. They have this little town of 1,000 people. And they don't have a mayor there. They have a manager, I guess, a town manager. And they hired somebody that it turned out was fired from another town for breaking a bunch of rules, breaking laws, and being super corrupt, right? So the newspaper in the town of this 1,000 people was about to write an article about all the things this person had been accused of and found guilty of in their previous job. And the newspaper got sued by the manager. And now they're redacting all that information. They can't publish this. They don't want anybody because they're afraid they're going to ruin this woman's reputation who's become the manager of the town.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, even a town of 1,000 people can't be honest about who's running their town because they're going to get sued about it. And the newspaper can't stand up to that because what's a newspaper from a town of 1,000 people? What kind of money do they have to fight a legal battle with some millionaire who's running their town? Like it's just now thankfully the CBC, who I can't stand, had the balls to write this article because they can stand up to the tyranny of a little tiny 1,000-person town.
Mm-hmm.
But that happens everywhere in the country. Like it's every little town, everywhere you look, there's always corrupt handshakes, corrupt shit.
Yeah.
I got neighbors cut my internet line because they don't like the look of my hair. Like
you're really a great salesman for Canada. You should be on all the tourist brochures. Come to fucking Canada. And of course, all the immigrants they get to Canada. Not only is it not what they were promised, but it's fucking cold as well for half the year.
Exactly.
Which probably wasn't the case where they came from.